My college professor promised an A to anyone who could prove him wrong. Last night I found evidence he plagiarized his famous research paper from my deceased grandfather. Everything in this textbook is my original research, Professor Barrett announced on the first day of pre-chorale chemistry. I'm offering an automatic A to anyone who can prove me wrong on anything substantial. He smirked, adjusting his bow tie. The class exchanged glances. Professor James Barrett was a legend, Pern youngest ever tenured professor at our university, author of the groundbreaking paper on enzyme catalysis that changed modern medicine, and now our intimidating instructor for the semester. His challenge was famous across campus, part a theoretical possibility that everyone knew was practically impossibility. My scholarship depended on maintaining a perfect chem Blake, and I was already drowning in student loans that would take a decade to pay off. So I studied harder than I ever had before, combing through his textbook for any inconsistency. 2 months into the semester, I was home for my grandmother's birthday when she mentioned my biochemistry class. Barrett, she repeated when I mentioned my professor's name. That sounds familiar. Your grandfather might have known him. My grandfather had been a biochemist too, but he died when I was 6. I barely remembered him. Pern, just a gentle voice and the smell of his pipe tobacco. Check the attic, Grandma suggested. Your grandfather's research notes are in boxes up there. He kept everything. That night, I found myself sitting on the dusty attic floor, surrounded by yellowing papers and old notebooks. Most of it was incomprehensible to me despite my years of biochemistry education. Then I found a folder labeled Enzyme Catalysis, Specialty Part 1988. My heart started racing as I pulled up Professor Barrett's famous paper on my laptop and placed it beside my grandfather's draft. The methodology was identical. The conclusions were the same. Even some of the phrasing was exactly the same. The only difference, my grandfather's paper was dated 15 years before Barrett's groundbreaking publication. I sat frozen, staring at the two papers side by side. Barrett had built his entire career on my grandfather's uncredited work. The work that should have made my grandfather famous, parental, that might have funded my education, that might have changed our family's life. Monday morning, I arrived early to class, clutched photocopies of both papers. When Professor Barrett swept in with his usual confidence, I approached his desk instead of taking my seat. I'd like to claim that automatica, I said quietly, placing the papers in front of him. His eyes flicked down, then back up to my face, unimpressed. Your famous enzyme catalysis paper, I said, and the original version written by my grandfather 15 years earlier. The color drained from his face as he looked down again, this time actually seeing what was in front of him. That's impossible, he whispered, but his hands were trembling as he flipped through the pages. My grandfather was Thomas Chen, I continued, aware that the classroom had gone completely silent behind me. He submitted this paper to several journals in 1988, but died before it was published. According to his notes, he shared his research with a promising graduate student who was interested in his work. I paused. That was you, wasn't it? Professor Barrett's bow tie suddenly looked too tight. Your grandfather's work was preliminary, I expanded significantly. Page 17, I interrupted. The diagram is identical down to the hand-drawn notation in the corner. He stared at me, then at the papers, then at the now whispering classroom of students. Class dismissed, he said hoarsely. The next day, the department chair called me into her office. Barrett had admitted everything. Your grandfather will receive full posthumous credit, she told me, and regarding your grade, I expected her to honor Barrett's automatica promise, but she did something better. We'd like to offer you a full academic scholarship, she said. Your grandfather's work will be properly published with his name, and we'd like you to help complete some of his unfinished research. Sometimes justice takes a generation, but the truth always finds its way back to the light.